2, 1. Hello, welcome back to the RTS Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about StarCraft 2 as a sequel. Today I have 3 guests from the StarCraft 2 community. Very happy to have those guys joining me. Tenchi, welcome back to the podcast.
Hello.
He's a regular guest here. The other 2 definitely new to the podcast. Welcome, Tempo.
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
And welcome, Joe.
Hey, what's going on, man? Thanks for having me on.
So this is a pretty coincidental timing because I actually planned this podcast about a week ago, and then yesterday during the GSL we got the confirmation of the Brood War remake, the remastered rather, and that's been rumored for a while, but now we finally have confirmation. So I think that's going to generate a lot of discussion around this, how Brood War compares to StarCraft 2. Will it overtake? Will more players jump ship back to Brood War? But basically, the reason why I wanted to do this podcast was because whenever I watch a Brood War stream, there's always these copy pastors, there's this elitism where it's cool to bash StarCraft 2 as this shitty, this game for kids. Or there's this one copy pasta where it's like, why would you want to see Brood War where there's lots of small little fights when you can just see players build up for 10 minutes and have one big fight? There's like all these dumb copy pastas and stuff. So let's jump into it. Tenchi, how do you feel about StarCraft 2 as a sequel?
We were talking about it a little bit now right before we started, and I think we can all agree on that StarCraft 2 is a very faithful sequel to the game, like to StarCraft as a franchise. I mean, to me, having played a lot of Brood War, I was really excited when StarCraft 2 was announced, and then when I got my hands on the beta as well, I got right into it. I got into it very quickly, and a lot of the things, just from the very start made sense. So to me, it's never really been. I've honestly not put a lot of thought into it, like if it is, like how faithful it is, because to me it just felt so natural, and that to me now, that I put some thought into it later on. I definitely think it does a great job in carrying the franchise further forward.
Yeah, I mean, I personally like StarCraft 2 more. I get that there's a sect of people that like Brood War more, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think the larger sect is actually people that pretend to like Brood War more and just maybe don't really like either game that much. Because if you look at the active players, like IC Cup, which is the largest non-Korean server, has about 200 players typically and peaks around 300.
That's
StarCraft
it?
2, yeah.
Wow.
Concurrent active. So you probably have more uniques, but like concurrent active. StarCraft 2 usually has like 4,000 or 5,000 concurrent active on just the North American server, and it can peak at like 10K when there's more activity or co-op going on, and that's just people playing ranked. So I mean, one game is obviously more popular than the other. So maybe the Brood War guys are really vocal. Maybe it's people that genuinely hold the opinion. Maybe they're just hanging out in the community because they got bored of the game, but they still have friends here. But not a lot of people play Brood War.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think all those people that sit around on GSL and just troll StarCraft 2, how many of them do you think actually play Brood War? And even like how many of them actually are playing StarCraft 2 despite bashing StarCraft 2 and saying that Brood War's a better game?
They still do it anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a thing. Honestly, it's a Twitch chat kind of mentality anyway. And a lot of the times, those are the things that are going to stand out to you more than, people actually talking about the game or whatever. So I think it's very easy to, maybe be like, oh, man, like this is crazy. It's all the, people hanging on or making this big kind of storm out of nowhere. But I don't know. I honestly, for me, so it's kind of different. I have a kind of more unique situation where I don't have like this Brood War history. You know what I mean? Like, and all I do is stim. I literally say, I like my StarCraft 2 because I got the original version. Like, I played the campaign, did I didn't get into the UMS stuff. I was more of a console gamer at the time, to be honest. I actually bought it in London. I bought StarCraft in London from some random GameStop. It wasn't even a GameStop. It was like Shot. There was some bootleg, video game store, and I wish I had some of the boxes from that place. Like they were like all like not the real game, you know what I mean? But they probably had some guy that burned it on a CD and sold it in the store. Um, and I ended up getting Brood War there, and I just did the campaign and chilled. And I was talking to Callum earlier. A lot of my RTS history actually comes from like old school stuff, like Star Wars, Galactic Battlegrounds, and like KKND, which is a Kill, Crush, and Destroy, I think it was called. I played a little bit of Dawn of War, but I was mainly an RPG and FPS kind of guy until StarCraft 2. My friend bought it for my birthday, and so I don't have like this kind of bias or anything from the past. I just play it at and take it at face value almost. And I just how long has it been? Like 7 years, right? Like SC2.
Yeah, 2010.
Was Galactic Battlegrounds the one with the Age of Empires 2 engine?
Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
That game was like horrible and wonderful. I played so many hours and it was so bad.
It was so bad, but it was so good. It was Star Wars. I was like, yo, this game is awesome. Like, I don't know. It wasn't like great, but when you're a kid, you're not really like,
yeah,
oh my
that's.
God.
I put
I'm
a
gonna
lot
go
of
to
hours into that game as
Metacritic.com
well.
and see what the score is. You kind of just take it, and it had the basic kind of RTS elements to it. So, yeah, I lost a lot of hours to that one, man. I'm never gonna get those hours back, Joe.
I grew up playing a lot of the old CNC games, but StarCraft was my favorite. I remember also like when we used to go to school, we would like my friends and I do impersonations of the voiceovers. Additional supply depots required, and we thought it was so funny. And in like woodwork and like we would make like little wraiths out of like plastic tubes and things, and it was this huge thing. And I think the nostalgia is always there, and it always gives people these rose tinted glasses. And StarCraft isn't the only example. I think the similar can be said for Company of Heroes 1. A lot of the Company of Heroes 2 players look back at KO 1 and they go, man, KO 1 is this glorious masterpiece, KO 2 is shit, and yet like they're still playing KO 2. They don't play KO 1 anymore. And I think it's very easy to remember the good things that you miss.
Yeah.
But it's very easy to forget all the shitty things that you hate. Like, and that's kind of what I feel like when I look at StarCraft Brood War, and when I want to play it, I go, man, like I miss all those units. I miss the quirky voice acting and all the sound effects. And I go play it, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I have to manage, like individually select every single worker every time I build a worker and click him on my mineral patch. I can't just rally him from my command center. And like when
Kind of
you
quality of life.
yeah,
Yeah,
and the
it's
pathing and stuff. It's like when you watch a Korean cast, you don't think about those things. The Koreans just do it, but then when you play it, you have to go through these chores. And so I think Brood War, it's possibly better. I mean, it's obviously a very subjective thing. But you could argue it's better as a spectator sport because the skill cap and the skill ceiling is so high and the mechanics
You
is
know
so
what they're putting
intense.
into it.
But as a
Yeah.
player, I don't think many people actually prefer playing Brood War.
I mean, it's kind of like when you've been in like an old relationship, looking back on an ex-girlfriend, you're like, yeah, man, I miss her, but you sort of don't again, like you said, you don't really think about all the bad shit.
Tenchi,
in
I'm
the
forever
background.
alone. I can't relate to this one, man. I don't know what you're talking. I was kidding.
What? No way, Tempo, man.
I'm just playing.
You've got like one of those ticket machines with like numbers, like ladies take like on the line here
I was
around
gonna
the-
say
around the block.
I've been out partying with you, Kwame. Like, chocolate ice, man.
I pick out of my
So I'm thinking like, just need to gather my thoughts there because I wanted to like make a point when you were talking, Callum.
You said
right,
relationship. Kind of like you're in a bad.
Dating
Yeah,
advice
but
for Tenchi, I'm a big fan.
like the whole nostalgia thing though, I think that's a really big part of it, as to like why a lot of the people go like, no, fuck StarCraft 2, Brood War is just like so much better, SE2 is shit. Because the whole thing about that you're saying that you look back on the past with a bit of like rose-tinted glasses, I definitely think that's a lot of the case, and I think that many people are reluctant to even go back and play the game themselves because maybe then they'll actually realize how frustrating and how shitty some of those things are, in the gameplay itself. Whereas in SE2, they've sort of been fixed. Like you can rally drones, you can hotkey multiple buildings and stuff like that. They're just like really small things, but make a really big difference. And I think that a lot of people that are stuck in that mindset, they actually don't go back and play Brood War like a lot, because maybe that'll shatter this illusion, you know. That's something that makes Brood War such a superior game, but then they go back, but they're sort of reluctant to go back and actually take it at face value that I think you need to do in order to make at least make a statement like that and sort of stand behind it, if that makes sense.
I think the underlying leap that you have to go through is you have to think that the game being more challenging inherently makes it more fun, and I think for the majority of people that isn't the case.
Yeah, no, like I enjoy SE2 way more than I enjoy playing Brood War. And that's not even about like, oh well, I'm used to SE2 now, but all of those things. I played Zerg in Brood War, and then only having 12 units per control group. That is really frustrating, and that is really tough. And yeah, no, I much prefer StarCraft 2 to play. That's just how it is.
Well, and I think like the idea of Brood War being somehow harder than StarCraft 2 doesn't really make sense because you still have, it's like the skill ceiling of StarCraft 2 is still so high. Like Tenchi is a very good player. I would assume he's the best StarCraft 2 player in this chat, unless Callum magically got super good.
Sorry.
And Lucas, you dumped however many games into this game, and like this is gonna sound mean, but you were never able to hit GM, but that's
nope.
like, but that's
I've played about 20,000, 25,000 games of SE2 since Wing.
I think we're up there, man. We're in the same kind of boat. To be honest,
I did make a push towards GM in 2013, and I hit like 2,600 masters, but I never made it in, and so I just burnt out and gave up, and that's when I became a caster.
Washed up.
But I guess what I'm saying is like it just goes to show you that all of the different skill levels in StarCraft 2 still stratify. So I don't know if it's necessarily harder, but it's just you have to be good at different things, and the things in Brood War are a lot more mechanical that you have to be good at. And I think a lot of people in StarCraft, because it's such a mechanically intensive game, have this idea and this mindset that if you have the better mechanics, you are the better player, full stop.
And you can look at the Brood War pros that have transitioned into StarCraft 2 and didn't do that well. I'm not completely familiar with the scene. I believe the most successful was Flash, and even then, he wasn't that successful.
So the guys that
relatively speaking,
the guys that did well in StarCraft 2 were the guys that were about to be the next big thing in Brood War. So like Rain and Sulky were already like making strides as the hot up-and-coming players. So I don't know if I'd agree with what you said.
There were, but I mean, there are like a lot of players who made the transition from Brood War. Like the focal point was on like the biggest names, like when Jaedong transitioned. When was that? Like 2012.
It was like a big it was MLG.
Winter,
MLG was it?
Where they had that.
Was that Dallas?
It was the one that Life won over Flash, right?
Was that Dallas? Or?
Oh no, I'm wrong. Tenchi's right, because they had the Kespa side tournament, and then for the MLG, the MLG Winter where Flash or Life won, that was the first time Kespa players played in the actual tournament, but they still had their own pools and shit.
Okay.
Because they were like many of those Brood War guys, they were actually terrible like in the first initial months of their transition. And didn't really do well, but I think like the biggest names that stood out was like Flash, because he took that IEM one where he beat Naniwa, that I remember quite vividly. Then Jaedong also did quite well. Jaedong actually became sick as fuck for a while in his like ZVZ especially.
JVZ, yep.
Yeah, exactly. That became a thing. But then there was like
I even heard a famous SE2 musician made a song about him too.
Like
he was a big deal.
For those who don't know, by the way, Tempo, of course, a legend in the StarCraft community because he does more than just cast. I think you should mention that quickly because that's important.
Thank you. I like music. I like.
Sorry, go on.
You're actually in the middle of a thought too. Sorry.
I just wanted to say like Supernova for like long career in Brood War. Sky High, another Terran who had like a really good TVT in Brood War, also played in StarCraft 2 for a while. I think the last time I saw him was
with TY.
Yeah. I mean, who's
also,
now?
Sue, by the way, Sue got third in a Star League.
Yeah, so you have so many of names like that are very big and very relevant in like top 5, top 10s now in SE2 that were working very hard in Brood War as well. So.
But I think Joe summed it up pretty well there, where Brood War, it's definitely a more challenging game in terms of mechanics because of the limitations to the UI, the selection, the control groups for buildings and such, rallying workers and so forth. But I think StarCraft 2, you could definitely argue it actually has more strategic diversity. You have to think a lot more on your feet. And whenever I watch a game of Brood War, it's incredibly fascinating, but it's very predictable and very repetitive. It's just TVP, vulture tank, vulture tank, vulture tank, vulture tank, science vessel. Like, okay, we get it. Whereas in StarCraft 2, you actually have a lot of different play styles. Bio and mech really seem to be viable in pretty much any matchup. But even on top of those builds, you have a lot of things you can sprinkle in on top.
Sorry, Callum. Adepts just make all Terran builds void right now. So.
Kappa.
Well, yeah. So say for example in TVP, it's like, so you have this bio army. Do you mix in liberators? Do you mix in ghosts? You have a lot of more options, a lot of more things that you can do. Whereas in Brood War, the matchups seem very rigid. You would never go bio.
There was no patch, there hasn't been any active patching in Brood War like StarCraft 2 has enjoyed. Like SE2 has always had like a consistent update every now and then, whereas Brood War pretty much remained the same for like almost 10 years.
Yeah, and so when people talk about how balanced Brood War was, they're wrong. At one point, like,
nah, you're
Savior, No, like objectively, like at one point, Savior created this playstyle when he was dominating, where Zergs were just winning everything, and Kespa had to start like paying map makers specifically to try to make maps that would break the way Savior played. So because there was no developer balance patching, a lot of the balancing in Brood War was done with map makers, and Kespa had professional map makers. They paid that was their job on salary, was to balance the game via maps. So I think a lot of people that like I didn't follow Brood War super closely, but I was aware of it, and I watched like some matches of Flash and Jaedong and stuff, all over, like Daily Motion, like Daily really Motion, bad pre-YouTube sites.
What was the blip.tv, like the one that Day 9 used to post is
blip.tv.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Fun fact, I wrote an article in 2014 about how Blip was a great example of someone that separated themselves from YouTube using premium content. 6 months later, they went out of business.
Wow.
So that article did not age well.
Oh no. Yeah. Yikes.
But anyways, what I was going to say is I think a lot of people that say Brood War was so balanced because they were able to play it without patching don't understand how like they kind of got around it and like secretly like nerfed and buffed things using the maps instead of developer patches. Like there was still active balancing going on at the highest level.
Yeah.
But also, balance is more than just win rates in terms of, see, these factions all have an equal chance of playing. You can't say the Marine is a balanced unit because it's just awful versus Protoss, yet it's very good versus Zerg. So like, what do you do there? You
always, no matter what, man, just make Marines, bro. Just do it.
Yeah, Day 9 has a great line about how the Marine can potentially counter any given Protoss unit at any point during any game.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically like different stages of the game. You know, like you need upgrades to make the Marine like really good. You know, early game, you're gonna see like the Marine kind of an embarrassing unit. Like almost every gateway unit dominates it, right? But, you know, as you get into the late game, you get your upgrades, you have stim, you have medevacs that come into the picture.
Well, I'm referring to Brood War. In StarCraft 2, Marines are fine.
Oh.
Yeah, in StarCraft 2, Marines are fantastic. That's kind of the whole point of what I'm saying, is that the Marine is good. I wasn't sure if you meant StarCraft 2 until you said medevac, and I was like, no, okay. Yeah, no, in StarCraft 2, Marines, any matchup, they're good, and that's the same with really any unit. You know, Stalkers, you know, Roaches. You know what I mean, right? Whereas if you look at
I'm just fucking with
if you look at Brood War, the Marine is just not good versus Protoss. You will never go bio. You will only ever go mech at high level. And then so Tenchi was like, well, it's because they haven't patched it. But then what do you do with the Marine? Just fundamentally, the way that the game is designed, you can't buff the Marine because then it will just completely crap all over Zerg. So the matchups and the factions aren't really designed with as much foresight as StarCraft 2, where they put a lot of effort into making every unit balanced and have some kind of purpose in every single matchup.
Yeah, David Kim's made that like a point actually. I don't know if that's like NDA. Not really. I think he did it at BlizzCon. You know, like what we were talking about a lot. You know, whenever we would have these kind of meetings, is that they're trying to have as few overlaps as possible while still giving every unit a role, right? That's why the Swarm Host is kind of like
Yeah.
redheaded stepchild that just hasn't found himself yet. You know, he's trying his best. He's going through his kind of emo phase and everything like that. But you know, honestly, I believe Legacy of the Void has been a really great point for StarCraft 2, you know, as far as the developer interaction, transparency, and just the game itself, you know, it's actually really exciting. I really enjoy it still. And, you know, there was a point in Heart of the Swarm and even Wings of Liberty where we would have this kind of stale meta where nothing would change, right? Like, people pretty much figured out the game, and it wasn't a fun game, I don't think. Like, you know, I honestly do not believe that StarCraft 2 at the end of Wings of Liberty, or even for the latter half of Heart of the Swarm, was a really great game. You know, like it was all right. You know, we had these kind of Swarm host, bro. I'm sorry.
Because
so can I?
Broodlord.
Yeah,
Bethesda,
Joe,
you know, like.
Joe, go ahead first.
So on
Maybe...
the topic of Swarm hosts, this kind of harkens back to what we were talking about when we said like how nostalgia colors everything. So I'm gonna make a confession here. I miss Swarm hosts.
Oh.
That was like that stage. Let me finish. Let me crucify myself, and then you can hang me.
Okay, bro.
So, anyways, like that, but that stage of the game was when I really started like falling in love with StarCraft in a way that I hadn't with previous other games. That's when I started getting involved with organizing events. That's when I was able to watch the most because I still had 3 college classes left. But at that time, I was basically like a part-time student, and I was working and making money in esports for the first time. And that's when I went basically like balls deep into this game. And I think because of that, I have rosier memories of the Swarmhost era than most other people. And the funny thing is, even though I miss Swarmhost and I'm nostalgic for them and I thought the positional play was cool, I also never played Swarmhosts. So whatever was going on in there was because of the state of me falling in love with the game. I think the casters doing a good job of hyping up, oh, this positional play is so cool. I've kind of internalized that, and I think that happens whenever you're in that first stage of like head over heels infatuation with the game, and then you know things kind of settle down and the game becomes your old lover, and like you know, you're like, oh, I wish we could go back to Paris, but it's like that's not how relationships work.
For me, it was.
I like that we keep coming back to the whole relationship thing. But I think it's a good like metaphor to make though, because it's
definitely.
Yeah, because it like the emotion of looking back on something like that in that way it's very similar. I think it's like very romanticized.
Yeah, it's what you kind of connect, right? Like you make the connections with like Joe's saying the fact that this era of the game was the point in time where he really like, you know, started to love the game or any right. Yeah. So things that are around it or things that are happening are going to be very close to you, I think, right? It's kind of like when you go to any event, like a lot of the times people will be like, dude, this was the best like esports tournament ever. Well, probably because like you were there, right? And you really got the whole experience, and maybe you met a bunch of people there. You maybe met Idra for the first time, and he, you know, didn't give you a high five or something, and it's like, dude, this is the best day of my life. Yeah. Like, let's go.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone has those stories, like especially of us who sort of stayed in the community and still remain active. All of us, like we probably all have our own stories, you know, sort of connecting into that narrative at least. But I guess I just think it's important to sort of be aware of that is definitely like a condition or a thing when it comes to these sort of things like Brood War, the old TNC game.
Exactly. Like
but like you can make that correlation to anything, like
no matter what.
Yeah, exactly. Like I have really fond memories of Halo 1, For instance, on the original Xbox, that to me, like the whole Halo franchise, is also like a huge thing that I was really involved with. Um, on
Hey,
the
come back,
side,
Bob. I see what you did there.
Halo 2 is the best one. Halo 2 is the best one for me. But same thing, like I went back and played them not too long ago, actually, like on my Xbox 360, just because it was like chill night, kind of just felt like it, and the experience wasn't great. It's not the same because your perspectives have changed. I've played the games that came after that. I've been involved in esports now, like in big esports, not just sitting in my living room with friends, kind of thing. It's like because of how you mature and how you age. It doesn't necessarily mean that the game is going to age with you.
Dude, I'm so salty that Microsoft haven't released the Master Chief Collection on PC. That was like their one chance to redeem themselves, and they didn't.
Oh, it was horrible. It was
But
horrible.
What was
you
it?
have it, Joe?
I
don't even know.
played a friend and mine.
Oh, the multiplayer was screwed, right?
Just everything, like the
Really?
graphics. Yeah, like so for a lot of HD remakes, I think we expect kind of them to just like clean up the graphics. But I don't know, man, with Halo, I had higher expectations because they have these newer engines. Like I expected, maybe this is unfair, but I expected Combat Evolved to like look closer to Halo 3, and instead it looked like Combat Evolved with like weirdly detailed models. Like the HD graphics, I didn't even like them. They looked, oh god,
Were you kind of thinking something more towards what they did with No, wait. What do you? Because I remember, because I was watching like the Halo 2 remake that they did, like a playthrough of that, and it looked amazing. Like it looked so sick.
Yeah, so the 2 was better, but 1 was really weird. One
Okay.
was like they slapped extra graphics on top
Onto
of
the pre-existing.
Yeah,
Oh.
it looks
It just looked
weird.
unnatural almost.
Yeah, but okay, but I guess we're digressing a little too much here though, because we're talking
Yeah,
about.
True.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, guys.
Well,
I
we
started
can.
that tangent.
I mean, that's actually a very elegant segue into the StarCraft remastered. We can talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, and that looks stunning. Like looking at the effects and the graphics, it looks really well
I
done.
love it. I
Um,
really like it.
I think what happens sometimes with like remasters. I mean, this is more something for FPS games, but they'll increase the resolution of the textures, but then like the world is still lacking in objects. So you have this weird dissonance between like some parts of the game look nice, some parts of the game don't. But with StarCraft Remastered, it looks like they're really putting a lot of effort in, because it's not just the models, it's also like the effects, it's also the music they're doing. Though like I'm kind of sad that it's just a pure graphic remaster. Like I know everyone would lose their shit if they actually changed some things like pathing, but for me, I kind of imagine like it's gonna come out. I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna play it for like a few hours, and I'll be like, man, I'm sick of having to click 1,000 times for my units to path as intended. Like I'm probably just gonna go back to playing StarCraft 2. But
So-
it'd be something I'd play more at LANs, just with like my friends and stuff. It wouldn't be like something I would play online seriously.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to respond like that. So they're redoing the campaigns with like comic book style briefings and stuff. So a lot of people are going to
for this though.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
people are going to buy it and play the campaign and never touch the multiplayer. This game is going to make Blizzard a metric fuck ton of money. Like
But isn't it a free add-on? Like I thought.
no. So
no.
Brood War is free. Brood War remastered. Remastered will cost money.
They're getting the patch now for original Brood War to make it free, like this week, and then this summer they're gonna release a remastered as like its own product.
But you can play
Like-
cross-client, so you can play a game with someone on the remastered version that has the original.
Oh, that's
Um,
sick! Actually, that is really sick.
Yes, but the original, I think, or the new one, I think, will give you access to matchmaking, whereas the original will just play on fish, like stuff like that.
Mhm.
So you still have to go through the like issue of port forwarding and like all of that fucking around.
Yes. No. So Blizzard brought the fish team on board and helped them implement UNPN. So like
Oh, okay. Okay.
that's over.
Now the real
Nice.
question is, are you gonna be able to play SE Brood War remastered and LAN or what? Go.
Yeah, they were gonna.
They
have
said- they
that,
said
right?
LAN.
They said that.
Yeah,
they
they did?
said it was gonna have LAN. Yeah. It's
Damn.
funny, right? Because like, hey guys, StarCraft Remastered. SC2 still no LAN after 7 years, boys.
Well, so like no one in Korea is gonna pay for this game. Like all the maybe they will to get access to matchmaking, but like the reason they didn't put LAN in StarCraft 2 was because all these PC bongs just used pirated copies with fish. Like,
That makes
I
sense.
know.
Though, like,
I know the reasoning behind it. I was just memeing. You know, just memeing.
no,
Monday,
I know,
you
but
how
like
it
I'm
goes.
wondering if like Blizzard is gonna look at it again and be like, damn it, we should have taken LAN out.
They can't really do that though because the original game has LAN. It's one thing to actively remove LAN than it is to just not include it. But it was really bad. Like we used to have these big LAN events, as in like an event with say 100, 200 plus people, sometimes up to 500 depending on the venue. And back in like 2010, before a lot of those campuses and those venues had fiber internet, like we just couldn't play StarCraft 2 or you would be playing it at tournaments, but you would have all this ping because you have hundreds of people in this one venue connecting to the American servers back to Australia, and so the tournaments were really messy. And then same with League of Legends when that came out, we were trying to play tournaments, but everyone had lag issues and stuff. It's fine now because all of these big venues have fiber internet, but a lot of times when games don't have things like LAN or when there's like DRM and there's updates and things like that, these companies don't factor in third world countries that have shitty internet, like Australia.
Wait, did you just call Australia?
I did it as a joke, but the internet, like the internet speed can be compared to many third world countries.
I know, yeah, I've heard.
Yeah, you guys decided to form a developed country on an island in the middle of nowhere, so.
Well, we didn't choose it. We got deported because we stole bread.
Yeah, I was gonna say, thanks, Britain.
Friggin' bread.
Okay. I'm looking at the timer. I'm gonna have to take my leave because I've got
Hey, man,
some
don't
things
take it
I have to do. So I'm so sorry about that, Callum.
Oh, okay.
But
Oh,
I
that's
will
fine.
leave you I'll leave you with a closing statement from my side. Personally, though, I am very excited for StarCraft Remastered with a direct support of Blizzard for matchmaking and stuff like that. I'm definitely going to pick up the game and I'm going to invest a couple of 100 hours into that at least, but I'm still going to stick with StarCraft 2.
I think it's gonna be cool for like teaching your kids to play the game that you grew up on, because now it's gonna be something that we can hand down.
Easily
Like,
accessible.
yeah. That being said, like how many StarCraft players do you think have children? But
I
is
can name like Spectra.
Naniwa?
actually doesn't Artosis have a kid?
Yes, he does.
Yeah, Artosis has 2 kids.
Well, there you go.
Okay.
I mean, like a lot of the StarCraft 2 fan bases, historically older, I guess, right? Like, statistically, I think a lot of people say that SC2 players tend to be a bit older.
Yeah, but with younger gamers, there's certainly it's hard to get them to play those classics where the graphics is just so outdated and ugly. So
Where your computer explodes when you try to turn it on.
When we were kids, those graphics were like state of the art, so that's obviously what you gravitated towards. Like it. So that's one of the big things that makes a difference as to why it's hard to get the younger generations into those older games. I mean, no one plays 1.6 for the same reason, like Counter-Strike. But yeah, with that anyway, I'm gonna have to go here, guys. So
Okay.
Okay, cheers,
thank you
Tenchi.
so much, Callum, and good to see you again, Tempo and Joe. And I'll see you guys
Take care,
around.
brother.
Oh man.
I think it's gonna break my overlay.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's fine for now, but like because I'm too poor to use XSplit, like I'm just using screen capture on OBS. So when his cam goes, it'll.
Don't sleep on OBS, bro.
Well,
Yeah,
actually,
you want to look into getting Zoom because then you can have each person's camera in a different window,
right.
and nothing will break your overlay.
Yeah, I went through a big phase of using XSplit, but I kind of came to the conclusion that OBS does pretty much everything that XSplit does. So there's really no reason to pay for XSplit. With an OBS, you can do all the same things. And I was having crashing problems with XSplit and such.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
stepping their game up.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Anything you guys want to talk about? It's a shame Tenchi had to leave this early.
Yeah, it's all good, but I mean,
think-
yeah.
I think your
Go
model
ahead.
was saying people are gonna buy it and then invest an amount of hours into it, and then either go back to playing StarCraft 2 or just not play StarCraft anymore. I think that's true for probably most people. Like
Yeah.
Legacy of the Void sold 2.5 million copies, and I think, which you'd never know looking at the active user count 3 months from then. There's a lot of people out there that want to play StarCraft for a little bit after launch and then not play it. So I think Brood War Remastered will do like super well. It'll make Blizzard a whole lot of money. The concurrent player numbers will shoot up really high for a while, but I don't think it's going to have the staying power to like I don't think it will have a higher player count than StarCraft 2 after 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, I kind of wish there was like two versions of remastered. It's like when you open the game, it's like, are you Korean or are you a filthy white man? And if you hit no, then like your pathing works.
What do I click?
I don't know. And then you could select like up to 12 units. You can rally workers to your mineral patches. Like I wish there was kind of like a subversion of the game where it's designed for people that want to play Brood War. They want to get that nostalgia and have all those memories back and play the game they love, but they don't want to go through the insane hurdles which Brood War makes you play.
Yeah, they have one I think in the arcade or something. Obviously, it doesn't get as much attention, but I think somebody had done that where it has SE2 mechanics, right? Where you can select more than 12 units and it's in
F2A
the
click.
engine, like, yeah, pretty much F2A way, no matter what. I feel like somebody did that. You know what I mean?
In StarCraft 2, yeah, they would have done.
But it was in like the arcade or something, and I know that Blizzard did put a lot of resources into trying to promote the arcade a bit more, but it never really took off, and it's kind of like tough to navigate, I think, for a lot of people, and the fact that you know, like the co-op, right? I think like SE2 co-op, the fact all they needed to do is make it like, here's the thing right here, you click this button, boom, it's like right there. It's very easy to figure everything out. The ease of use, I believe, is kind of what made it really, really cool. And a lot of the reason why people are jumping for this one, like jumping for joy, they're like, yo, you know, StarCraft Remastered is going to be sick because this is it. Like, you focus on it, it's right there. Here's what we're doing. It's basically the same game, you know, that everybody loves anyway, but it's updated, you know what I mean? And I don't know, I think, you know, that kind of ease is going to be the reason why it's so cool and a lot more accessible to people.
Yeah, it's strange why the Warcraft 3 custom map scene was so insanely successful, but it just didn't work in StarCraft 2.
I can tell you why.
Why?
So a couple things happened between the release of Warcraft 3 and StarCraft 2. Unity started really catching on, which is like a free set of game development tools that anyone can grab and make a game for free. You have to pay for some of the more premium features, but like the base game making tools are free. Before that, the best like free game making stuff was in Flash, which is awful. And then you had you had all these free to play games coming out and just straight up free games coming out. And suddenly, like, the desire for people to get the most bang out of their buck by getting like 8 million free games in the custom games and arcades and stuff disappeared, because now you're having more polished releases like Dota 2 backed by Valve, League of Legends, which is one of the original Dota developers, backed by Riot, and you just started getting more and more polished versions, like even tower defense games coming out on phones oftentimes are the same things you'd play on the custom arcade, and people didn't need that anymore. Like StarCraft definitely filled a void with that, but I don't think people need it anymore because you can go find a dedicated, better version on Steam now.
But even like your phone, like I think a lot of the times, like people don't necessarily have the time to sort through this whole list of things. Where it's like, okay, you know, in a game already that, you know, that they're running. Yeah, like I do agree with you on that, like 100%. That people kind of just are playing things like differently. The mobile game market is like, it's huge. It's ridiculous right now. You know.
I think even just the way that it's presented in the game with Warcraft 3, it was really easy. You would go custom game, and right underneath where you would play a normal melee match, you would then have the downloaded folder where you have all these wacky game modes. Where StarCraft 2, like, it felt really segregated. It's like, here is how you play StarCraft 2, here is how you play the arcade, it just didn't blend together so well.
Yeah, I think they could do a little bit of a better job on it. It's definitely been better than when it first came out. Like I was a guy that I was huge on arcade. You know, me and Chanman V, Machine, Smix, and a couple others.
Oh.
You know, we did the Wednesday night sprites, right? For a while, and we were trying to promote so much about the arcade. So it's just hard to navigate, I think, sometimes, and it's hard to know who's playing what, and I don't know, it's just tougher. Zealot Hockey, I love, by the way. I hope anyone from Zealot Hockey is watching this, because that game is lit.
Base Trade did a tournament with that, right?
Yep,
Like
I
with
believe
money.
so. Yeah, there's a whole professional scene, by the way, in that game. So there are some games that I think caught on. Star Strikers was one that came to mind too, that they did a tournament too. But there's so many games in there, right? And there's not a lot of incentive to make it aside from the Rock the Cabinet. I know we're getting a little bit off topic, but it does kind of come back to StarCraft, right? Yeah, so we're on topic.
Well, we can talk
but-
about Legacy of the Void again, unless you had something to wrap up.
Yeah, I was gonna wrap it up quick. It was just basically just there's not a lot of like incentive to go and dedicate all your time to making a game in SE2 when realistically, like Joe said, you can pick up Unity, make a game, and actually get it like Steam greenlit and make money.
Charge
from it, you know
money
what I
for
mean?
it, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the other
so
thing is Blizzard owns all your IP of anything you put in the arcade.
Really?
that yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
So
I guess they don't want to have Dota happening again, where they lose all this money on it.
yeah.
But I think a lot of the criticisms that people make about StarCraft 2 is no longer relevant in Legacy of the Void. And I mentioned it earlier at the start, like the copy pasta, where it's like, I don't know why people want to see a game where there's constant battles all over the map. I want to see players sit back for 10 minutes and have one big max supply battle. Like that's just not relevant anymore. Like that certainly
Doesn't happen anymore. Yeah.
yeah, that certainly was a thing in Legacy of the Wings of Liberty and HOTS as well, because there wasn't as much ways to harass your opponent. I mean, there's a few reasons. It's to start off with the harassment. So the way that like Dropper Lords have been changed, now you have the Adept and the Oracle, you have Liberators, so there's more units to harass. But just the main thing is the way that the minerals have been exhausted quicker, so you have to expand more, and because you have more expansions, it's a lot easier to harass. Even the maps as well, like the maps are,
Starting with 12 workers.
yeah. So you get into the action quicker. So I think some of the people that kind of criticize StarCraft 2 for those reasons and have that view that, oh, well, StarCraft 2 is just a massive, camp and blob fest, haven't played Legacy of the Void. And it's kind of sad, really, because StarCraft 2 certainly died off. It lost a lot of momentum, with when it first came out a few months afterwards. If StarCraft 2 launched as Legacy of the Void, like if that's what we got in 2010, even if it wasn't all of the units, it was just more the general design of a bit more action, quicker paced, it would have been a lot more popular. Because I think StarCraft 2 alienated a lot of people from communities like Command and Conquer, because instead of having this kind of action, fast-paced game, it was very sit back, turtle up, build a base, have a max army supply, and push out. And so for me personally, I got kind of bored of StarCraft 2 after Wings of Liberty, and I came back in Legacy of the Void, and I was like, wow, this is everything I wanted in a StarCraft 2 expansion. It just got all this kind of Command and Conquer style gameplay, more harassment, more micro, more aggressive expansions. And then I played some Brood War with Tenchi a few weeks ago, and Brood War's actually pretty slow. Like it takes you a long time to actually build up your base. The way that like the mineral patches work and your starting workers, it seems to take about as long as what Wings of Liberty did, and it's kind of the thing that you don't realize when again watching a stream is that the casters are talking over it and the Koreans are just so fast anyway, so you don't really think about it. But when you're playing it, it's a different experience.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a reason that like OSL and ASL have best of one groups, which would be like insane if you did that in StarCraft 2. But if you had best of one groups, it would take like a month to run like a group. not a month.
Wow.
It would take all day. But
Yeah.
that's when, like, I don't know if you remember, Kwame, when the OSL came over and people were like, why the hell are the groups best of one? And they were like, that's just how we've always done it.
That's how, yeah. Basically, different game, right? But it's like that's like what we know, and
They were like, this is our OSL format. We're going to have round robin
you-
best of one groups, and it's going to be really volatile.
in StarCraft 2 with
Yeah.
oh man. But no, I agree. I think it's really that, you know, Brood War is still a great game, you know what I mean? Like I don't think this isn't like a thing like where like, well, just because a lot of people think that Brood War is like the best thing ever doesn't necessarily, you know, have the other side saying that no, it's actually shit. Like it's a great game, right? And a lot of it is elevated, of course, by that nostalgia and just in general, people maybe just wanting to hate the next thing. Like people will be like, dude, Matrix was great, but Matrix Reloaded was actually, you know what? Let's just be honest, the other two Matrixes were pretty shit, but like, you know what I mean? Like it's a thing whenever it happens with like sequels and whatnot too. If it doesn't live up to your expectations of when you first fell in love with the game, then you're always gonna kind of have that feeling. I would say that, you know what, you know, let's just go back to Brood War because, you know, they fucked it all up. But I don't think that's true. And the faithful sequel kind of way of thinking, I think StarCraft 2 did a good job. It got me into it. Like that's what I'm saying. I was not even an RTS guy at all. Like I think I'm 0.5%. No, I think I'm like 94% of the black population that plays on. No, I'm just playing, but like, you know what I mean? I honestly didn't really really like RTS that much. You know, I just played a couple of ones. I would be like, yo, it was just another genre to me. I never really fell in love with a game, ever really, aside from like Final Fantasy. But this whole, I definitely believe this. I don't know.
I think when
I'm
it,
getting emotional, man.
when it comes to gaming communities, I mentioned this before in one of my other podcasts, is that there seems to always be this sense of tribalism and elitism, and it's always like people they always want to think that their game is the best and they are superior because they have the best taste in gaming. Whether it's mobile players going on League of Legends for casuals, Dota's shit, whether it's StarCraft 2 players looking down on Company of Heroes players, and even then you have Brood War players looking down on StarCraft, so it's StarCraft 2, so it's kind of this vicious cycle. So I think there's just always this urge, this inner tribalism for people to like to separate themselves into these communities and make
Sure.
these really dumb generalizing statements.
So I guess I've got one last thought. So I recently bought Mass Effect Andromeda. Huge Mass Effect fan, love the whole series.
Don't tell me it's
played
bad.
through-
I just beat Mass Effect the first one for the first time about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That game
Right?
is like, I don't know how you could play that game without nostalgia because
No,
the game
dude.
itself. I guess if you love like
I saw
complex
your tweet.
inventory management,
Yeah,
but,
I saw your tweet. That is a pain in the ass. The
but
management
it's a
is
great
horrible.
game. It's a great
I got
game,
the-
but it's
I got the
so
texture pack.
clunky.
I got the texture
Oh,
pack though,
nice.
so it looks,
I didn't
it looks
even know that
beautiful.
existed.
Yep.
But yeah, so I've beat that series like back to front 3 times, right? And I played
Mhm.
Mass Effect Andromeda, and I was disappointed by it. I didn't really like it. I'm having trouble actually playing it. It kind of feels like a chore. Never once was I like, you know what I should do? Go to communities where people like Mass Effect and tell them they're fucking wrong for enjoying Mass Effect Andromeda. And then I'm gonna go hop in a Twitch stream of a guy who's streaming Mass Effect Andromeda with a bunch of viewers, and I'm gonna shitpost, and I'm gonna be like, why are you guys enjoying Mass Effect Andromeda? Don't you know you could just play Mass Effect 3 and it's a smoother experience, and the writing is better, and there aren't these weird facial animations? No, because I'm not a crazy person. I just don't play the game that I don't like. Like, I don't know, man. I think you're right with tribalism, because I think most people are just like most people that like StarCraft and don't like StarCraft 2, or the other way around. I think most of them probably just play the game they like more and then like go on with their lives. But there's definitely
Right.
like a vocal group of people that maybe don't have a lot going on in their life, and like so feeling superior to people that play a similar but not the same game is like that's where they get their rocks off or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and,
think,
and,
yeah.
and StarCraft 2, like, it really is quite faithful. It's kind of hard to compare it's just to more modern sequels because there's such a big gap in terms of whatever 15 years or 14, whatever it was. And so you have all these different UI features, like the fact that you can't select more than 12 units. And some people argue that that doesn't make it a faithful sequel because it changes the way the UI works fundamentally. But it's just the times have changed, the expectations have changed, and it's the same with other older RTS games where you look at, like, say Red Alert 2 or CNC 3. There's massive differences, but that's more just an evolution of the genre. Whereas now, when games change their sequels so much, it ends up just pissing off the fans of the previous games. Like Dawn of War 3, they're tacking on all these weird ass MOBA mechanics, and like the game mode, you have towers you push through, rather than having
It's
to.
not essentially Dawn of War anymore.
Yeah, it's still like RTS, it's still base building stuff, but it just has these weird changes for the sake of it. They're just changing these things to try and appeal to other players, and so I criticize that for being unfaithful. But I think StarCraft 2, you can definitely say it's faithful because it gives you the same experience. It improves the UI in the experience, but it doesn't do it in a way that makes it feel like it's a different genre or it's a different franchise. And I was actually surprised like how much stayed the same, because the mineral Vespene gas kind of resource collection system, it does sort of feel a bit archaic when you compare it to more modern RTS games, but then they actually made it work in StarCraft 2 very well. So if anything,
Yeah.
I was impressed that they were able to keep the core, the mechanics in terms of the way that the resource collection works, the way that buildings work, and they're able to translate that into a modern RTS that actually it holds up by today's standards.
Yeah. Could add like a third resource, right? But like, yo, or another race. They didn't even add another race. You know what I mean? Like they still kept the same three, from the first game. You would almost expect the sequel to be like, all right, and here's like the new race or
Yeah.
the new resource or something like that.
Yeah, let's get some Russian psychics up in here.
Yeah, a lot of times sequels feel that like they need to just add more things in for the sake of it, and that ends up them just trying to do too much and nothing really being polished enough.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think we can end the podcast here. It's a shame Tenchi had to bail on us, but
It's all good.
yeah, thanks for joining me, guys. It was a bunch of fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Same, bro. Yeah, good to talk to you too again, Joe. It's been a bit.
Yeah,
I
you
think.
too. Are you going to Sidestorm Cup 5?
I should be, yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll see you down there. I'm gonna go with the Temple Boys.
Oh, nice.
Oh, and there's that other thing in Canada I'll see you at. I don't know if that's public yet.
The oh snap. Well,
Yeah, you know.
it is now. Just kidding. Just kidding. Yeah, and you too, Callum. I appreciate you having me on. That's really, really good to reconnect with you. I think in the Twitch chat from the IQ Cup. That was pretty dope.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, subscribe for more RTS podcasts and follow these guys on Twitter if you want to keep up with their StarCraft 2 content. It actually has Tenchi's Twitter handle underneath Joe because they moved around on the overlay. But Joe, you see it there. It has the little handle there. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time.